modern era of baseball, all 122 seasons of it, there have been only 8 occasions where a player has stolen more than 100 bases in a season. Only 4 men have accomplished this feat. Moray Wills and Lou Brock each had one magical season, and the other 2 men, Ricky Henderson and Vincent Maurice Coleman. See, Coleman burst into the majors in 1985, and quite on brand, he wasted no time in showing just what he could do. As a rookie, he swiped an astounding 110 bases as a rookie. He was unanimously voted as NL Rookie of the Year that year, but he wasn't done. His first 3 seasons in the majors were all 100-plus stolen base seasons, and in fact, during his first 6 years in the majors, Vince led the league in steals every single year. And as today's game sees fewer and fewer stolen bases, Vince Coleman will forever stand out as one of the fastest men to ever close that 90-foot gap.
Hey, Pop Fly Universe, Cardinal fans, Vince Coleman fans, baseball fans, welcome. We are here live with the man, Vince Coleman, Rookie of the Year, but I'm going to say greatest rookie season in MLB history. Vince Coleman, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I'm humbled and honored to be here with you.
And then we have the man, Daniel Horine, who is the artist and creator owner of Pop Fly Pop Shop. If you're new to this, every week for baseball, Daniel does a comic book style cover. And this week it is Vince Coleman. Now, our interview is late in the week, so this thing retires tomorrow. So all of you who like to wait to the last minute, this is the last minute. It is gone forever tomorrow. Go ahead and go to popflypopshop.com and you can get it. There's an autograph option. There's an autograph inscription option. So go ahead and check it out. Right off the bat. Oh, and also, if you have a question you would like to ask Vince Coleman himself, get it in, and we will filter the best one in, and you'll get a prize from Pop Fly Pop Shop. Real quick, Vince, I'd love to get your reaction to this. You seem like a superhero, so you on a comic book just looks right to me.
Well, you know, as a kid coming up, you would always see the action figures, and going over one of my friend's house all the time, you would always find yourself reading them and becoming a big fan. I was a big Batman and Robin fan, you know, Bruce Wayne, so, you know, it was always an avenue that I could go down and watch and read, to spend time, and to go to bed at night. You know, I would always read the. So I've always been a big fan of the comic.
I gotta ask, did you read Flash at all?
Oh yeah, yes, of course. You know, and it was funny when I played with Flash Gordon over there in Kansas City. You know, he was one of the guys that, you know, always revert back to that time when Flash Gordon was such a big, and you know, they would show some of the clips at that time. You know, so that brought back a lot of memories.
Oh, well, speaking of Flash Gordon, did D, who became an excellent base stealer as well, did he ever pick your brain a little bit?
Well, you know, D was born, and when I was in Kansas City, he's 4 or 5 right in there. So, but yes, I did get a chance to meet D later on, and he was very, very receptive to what I had to say. I shared a little secrets with him, and yes, he became a great base stealer.
Well, I want some of those secrets too. So let's talk. First year on the Cardinals, how quick was it before you got that green light where they just said, you know what, Vince, just do whatever you want on the bases?
Well, I always trusted my instincts, and, you know, and I always played with a chip on my shoulder ever since I left Florida A&M. And, you know, base stealing became one of the things that I took a lot of interest in. When I woke up in the morning, and all I wanted to do was read the paper to see who was pitching, because every pitcher had a flaw, tips or tendencies. And so that's what gave me the advantage. Once I learned that tip from Don Blasingame, one of the Cardinals instructors there, taught me that every pitcher, you started at the head, hands, knees, and the feet. And he's already predetermined whether he was going home to first. Now you look at the catcher. The catcher sets up in the middle of the plate. You know, it's an off-speed pitch. He sets up on the corners as fastballs. And if you can look at the pitcher's head, you know, the timing of the bib of the cap, once he's a one-looker or two-looker maybe, they are a creature of habit. So those are the things you have to study day in and day out. And I can go through a list of left-handers, you know, Bruce Hurst, Honeycutt, Fernando Valenzuela, Sid Fernandez, you know, Ojeda, you know. So it was a list of guys that played with me in the minor leagues. So when I got to the, you know, I would sit there and I would share this information with Ozzie and Willie and Tommy Hurd. It made me look like a genius, you know. So when it was, the knowledge builds confidence, and the confidence makes you play fast. And when you play fast, you kick ass. And that's with the Cardinals, you know. So Whitey was a guy that, hey, look, he knows what he's doing. You followed him, and he gave me the green light since day one, and I never looked back.
Wow. Well, speaking of that phrase, that it made it to the cover. Can you go ahead and bring that up again, Daniel?
Sure.
Yeah.
That is just, if you can't read it from your screen, that is in the comic bubble there. Man, it's perfect seeing this. So are you ripping this base off a curveball in the dirt then, Vince? Is that what's going on here?
Well, anytime you see me still in third base, it was because I knew what was coming. It was going to be an off-speed pitch. And I think and if you look at statistically wise, the percentage wise, my percentage is still in third base, especially off the left-handers. It had to be almost about 99% or 98%.
Wow. Let's talk about maybe the decline and the lack of stealing in modern day baseball. A player that Daniel and I both love is Acuna, and I would look at him as a good base runner. He has 107 career stolen bases, so you're on top of him your rookie season. What's your thoughts on just the decline of the stolen base in today's baseball?
Well, first you have to have a guy that want to, day in and day out, and then an organization or a general manager that will allow for you to, and not have them hang a sandbag over your head. I think one of the things that once you get into baseball this day and age, the first thing they tell you is how not to. Don't get picked off. Don't make the first or third out at third base. Don't get double up on line drivers. So many don't. So now I'm the how-to coach. I'm going to teach you how to get out there and get that lead, how to read that pitcher, look for that tips and tendencies, trust your instincts of when to go. So I want you to have the same confidence as a hitter at the bat as the same confidence as when you get on the baseline. So I think for the knowledge is being poured into the kids to build their confidence day in and day out. It's not there. It's not being taught. We're talking about other things for his offense and defense and, how to pitch, but the base running is sort of like obsolete right now, where they don't feel that they don't want to take the risk of running into outs, given the great athlete to use his God-given ability to go out and put pressure on opposing player, because what you're doing is asking them to play a simple game of catch. But now they got to put a time limit on it. So if you're over there on first base and you're putting pressure on the opposing team, when they know you're going to go, then it makes it a lot harder for them to complete their job. So I think that was our advantage, that we knew that when we was going, how to go, what to look for, and they knew that it was nothing that they could do about it, so it made it a lot more fun.
Wow. And how familiar are you, Vince, with the new rules coming in this year? I think you would just be salivating as a base runner.
You know what? To be honest with you, I'm not too familiar with it, but from what I heard is that they're not going to be allowed to throw to first base, pickoff moves over there a lot. I mean, if that's the case, then, they wouldn't have a chance. The bigger the base, I mean, I don't know how much advantage that will be, but with the shift and everything that's going on. I mean, when we played the game, we played it as though the game was, we don't make a mockery of the game. And I think that's what they're doing right now, is making a mockery of the game. We just want to go back to where we want to learn how to do the things fundamentally sound and teach the game how to utilize your athletic ability and to go ahead and capitalize off their mistakes, or force them to make mistakes.
Yeah, so the bases are going from 15 inches to 18. So that's going to reduce your 90 feet gap by 4.5 inches. And they only get 2 pickoffs. And on the third pickoff, if you're back in time, you get to go to second base automatically. And if I could bat behind you at first base, like the pitcher's 90% focused on Vince Coleman, and I'm going to get a meatball. Like, just shred that. Am I wrong?
Wow. Well, anytime I was on base, the illusion, I would always give you the illusion that I was going. A lot of time I wasn't going, because a lot of times my first time seeing a pitcher, especially a left-hander, I didn't know his move. I got the biggest lead. You don't know I'm going, but you think I'm going. But at the same time, the catcher is given the number 1 fastball, and therefore who's ever batting behind me is going to salivate over, for being at that bat. Ozzie became a 300 hitter. Willie McGee bat 350, and Tommy Herb had 118 RBIs with only 8 home runs. So yes, it is a big advantage by having a guy on base. that possess speed. That's a potential base stealer. You know, so that's what the Cardinals possess, and that's why I would say probably one of the best base running teams ever been assembled. I would say base stealing team, because in 1985 we stole 300 bases, and so I don't think you ever see that again.
No.
So
Yeah.
that's our makeup and our motto, and so we try to be consistent, and I think that's one of the things. If you ever say anything about the Cardinals, consistency is the most important word that's associated with the game of baseball, and how to minimize your negatives and maximize your positives. And that's one of the things we went in every day, because we did it in practice, doing pregame, doing batting practice. We ran the bases every day, how to work on your lead, how to get a jump, how to go when the ball's in the dirt, how to score from second on base hits. Those are the things that was one of our rituals that we would do every day in practice. So when it became game time, it was second nature for us to do.
Wow.
Yeah, Willie McGee, I was reading, he was saying the game was magical when he was batting behind you. It was just a totally different experience, batting behind Vince Coleman, and I love his word choice there, just describing how it was, how the game changed just by batting after you for him.
Well, I can imagine. I mean, because it was sometimes the batting order come around, and then Ozzie was on first base, or someone there, or Terry Pelton was there, and I knew that a lot of attention was going to the first baseman over there trying to pick them off. And now I know what's coming, a fastball. So it was so amazing was that if we would always have our own signals and signs within ourselves, if it is knew that a guy that I couldn't steal off of, I had trouble with, then we would put on a button run or a hit and run on ourselves. So we had a lot of play into the game that we could manipulate ourselves. Just because we knew that we had the opposition playing on their heels. Yes, it was so much fun playing with Willie. It was so much playing for Ozzie. It was so much playing for Whitey Herzog. It was so much playing in the Cardinals organization. It was the best time ever. The fans there was electric. Whenever you go back there now, they treat you like royalty. It's a place that would always be my birthmark. And then so nothing like being in St. Louis. I love St. Louis, and I miss it every day. I miss it every day.
Can you show the cover again, Daniel? So this is Vincent Van Gogh on the Cardinals, of course, ripping third base there. This is only available until tomorrow. So get online to popflypopshop.com and get it. There's an autograph option. There is an autograph inscription option. You got about 30 seconds to get your question you want to ask Vince Coleman in. As a fan, Vince Coleman, the Mets never just felt right. It felt like they restricted you. Can you give us an inside look? What was going on with their coaching and you there?
I was having a great day until you brought that up.
Oh, we were having a good talk. Yeah.
It was, how would I say, by me, it was the hardest decision. I would say it's the worst decision I ever made. It kind of curtailed my career, basically. I mean, here I am 6 years, on top of the world, and going into free agency, and Whitey Herzog, at that time quit. And I shouldn't say quit. He just left the Cardinals because at the time Augie Bush had died, and, they wouldn't give him the payroll that he wanted to keep his free agents, because I became a free agent. Terry Pelton, myself, Willie McGee, Ken Daly, so the whole team was dismantled. And so therefore Tommy Herr had left, Jack Clark was gone. So I didn't see us winning. And once you win, you always chasing that ring. Mm-hmm. And I thought by me, I had two teams that I could have chosen to go to at the time. It was the San Diego Padres or the New York Mets. Or I could have stayed in St. Louis, but I thought it was an opportunity where I could go on the best pitching staff in the game. You had Doc Gooden, you had David Cohn, you had Franco, you had Ron Dolan, you had
Strawberry, was he there?
Pardon me?
Was Strawberry there? Or?
Strawberry had left.
Okay.
To the Dodgers. And you had Frank Ball. He had left to go to the Dodgers. So I thought by inserting me in the top of that lineup, because I'm going to get 1 or 2 runs a game. I'm going to
Sounds great to me. Yeah.
Ed Howard Johnson, coming off a great career. You had Hubie Brooks. You had Mackie Sasser catching. You had so many, Elster, the shortstop. I mean, we had a great team. I mean, by paper, you looked like on the best team. Bobby Bonilla, you had Ed Murray, you had Willie Randolph. So you had a great team in place. But for whatever reason it was, being in New York, things just didn't gel. Things just didn't come into the locker room and put your egos in, and now you have the same chemistry. And, it wasn't like it was with the Cardinals for whatever reason. Therefore, it didn't transpire to the field. I tried my best. I did my best. I pulled a hamstring like 25 games into the season. And therefore, once I pulled my hamstring my first year, I'd never been hurt. And now I'm reading the papers, and, I had this big contract, and, it was like a worst free agency and I'm reading the paper, so when in New York, it's like a venom in the arm. You read it through, I want to play, So here I am, still a little nag. I try to come back out, and like 10 days, didn't give my leg enough time to rest. I pulled my hamstring again. I pulled it 3 times in the first year.
Wow.
By not giving enough time to heal, because I didn't know. Once it started feeling good, I'm like, oh, I'm ready to go. So it went on to the next year. The next year in 1992, I opened up the season in St. Louis on a bunt against Osborne and pulled my hamstring again, open day. So bad luck just set on me from the time I hit New York. Go through the injuries, and the injury bug got me, and I never was the same player I was again. And unfortunately, by being on the turf, I felt I was better because it was better suited for me than being on the grass. I mean, so therefore, late at night, being on that grass when it got wet and the dew was on the ground, maybe it was sticking or whatever, but it didn't fit well with me. And that kind of, so if you look at the stats, you're like, oh, well, that's where his career went down, because he was dealing with injuries that no one knows about the injuries. Wow. I wasn't producing and playing. So
yeah, that makes sense. Your legs are your weapons, and they got hurt a little bit. Something else, Vince, I don't think you get enough credit for is your on-base percentage, especially on the Cardinals. I mean, you had a 326, which last year the MLB average was 322. And so I look at a guy like Billy Hamilton. I love him, but the guy, he can't get on base. So
right.
he would be ripping 100 bags, but he can't get the first. And so you got on base above league average, which is what enables you to steal 100 plus bags. So I don't think you get enough credit for that.
For me, I always felt like that. And, I was always doing that time as a leadoff hitter back when you say I had I was always compared against Tim Raines and Ricky Henderson. Ricky Henderson had a 400 on base percentage. 380, and I'm like, oh my God, if I got on base as much as those guys, but the other thing was that I started switch hitting at the age of 23 years old. I started switching, and I spent 2 years in my leagues in 1985. Now I'm in the big leagues. So that was a battle every day. And if you look at the amount of 600 at bats, 400 was on the left-hand side. So, I had to really bear down and struggle and learn how to just, play pepper with the shortstop, hit the ball the other way, not be that, home run hitter, which I was. But, you got to do the things consistently, trying to get yourself on base. And luckily, I had a manager that was patient with me, that dealt with the fact that, all he wanted to do was keep the ball out of there. If I put it on the ground, chance. And, because of the competitor that I was, I tried to figure it out every day, how to stay competitive by putting the ball in play, coming to the ballpark every day early with Willie McGee and myself. We soft toss and hitting off the tee, learning how to, to stay inside of the ball and hitting it the other way and keep it out of the air, and give me that opportunity to be on base. Because once I got on base, it was going to be something special. You knew. Don't miss it. Don't go get no popcorn, because you're just going to see me going, So, and I want to go. It was fun.
I love it.
Hey, Daniel, any fan questions that really perk your interest?
Yeah, there is. Bob Feiner makes this great point here, and I'll share it. But so often we think, base stealer, we think about the pitcher, but Bob Feiner is asking, who was your favorite catcher to steal against, and who did you dare not try to steal against?
By the time he all is too late, I mean, I don't think it was one catcher that I thought that was the best catcher that I knew that I had to do everything perfect. Everything perfect against Jody Davis. Jody Davis was the most consistent catcher. His technique, his fundamentals were great, and he threw a strike every time the second base down there, so he was the one catcher that, but then again, with that being said, I never went to first base worried about a catcher. I always put my interest in time. If he got the opportunity to throw me out, then good luck. But next time, I'll often begin to ask the question of who, the 50 straight consecutive stolen bases record that who's the guy that threw me out? Well, the situation was top of the ninth in Montreal. Pascual Perez is pitching on first. Score was 1-1. I lead off the inning. I get on base. Everybody in the ballpark know I'm going. You know I'm going. And it was a backup catcher called Nelson Santavena. And the count went to it was 1-1, and I took off. He threw a perfect strike, and I was out. So but that was just the risk of the war you take. At the time. So but and whether or not I knew it was a record at the time, I didn't know. I knew that when I did break Davey Lopes' record, it was 36. But I just continued to run.
Just tacked on.
All the time.
I'll take 50 out of 51 anytime.
Right. All right.
Thank you, Vince. And my wife asks this question every live we do, and I love this question. And I like to ask you, if you were to, regarding your legacy, if you're to be remembered for one thing, what would that thing be?
I would have to say that being a St. Louis Cardinal, that meant so much to me, because that bird on the chest. When I was in the minor leagues, George Kissel would always say, those ain't the wings. It was like you're going to fly to heaven. I was a spiritual guy, coming from the South, and, everything was always, based on, the national anthem. And I go out and hear the national anthem song, I'm always saying this prayer, giving me the strength to go out and be the best I could be, to, help me stay injury free, so, and then if you do that and you put your faith in God, you'll be taken to the next level. So, but I always believed in the birds, that always drove me and gave me inspiration to be a cardinal, a cardinal that's going to fly me to heaven, up in the air.
I love it. And I'd like to share a quick little personal story, Vince, and you were forever cemented in my life story with this story. My mom passed away 4 months ago. And I had just got the news on the phone, and it hadn't hit me yet. I hadn't processed it yet. I don't think I had cried over it yet. Excuse me. And then, totally unrelated, because you and I had been playing text tag a little bit. You were the first person that sent me a text, and at that moment, I'm like, I'm sorry, Vince, that this just happened. I'm gonna have to catch up with you in a bit. And you wrote the sweetest, most heartfelt message to me about mothers. And it was at that point then it hit me. Then the floodgates opened, and I felt it. And so I always remember that moment. I got a text from Vince Coleman, and that just went right to my heart. And I totally appreciate that. And in looking into your career and life for this piece, your mom was mentioned a lot. You mentioned your mom a lot, and that doesn't happen a lot with the players that I researched. And so it was so cool that you're part of that moment, and looking into your life, your mom was such a big part of who you were, who you are, who you became. I just want to share that story. I appreciate that.
Thank you. My mom was my best friend, and when I left high school, when I went to college, and I told my mom, I said, I want to make you proud, and I went there on a walk-on at Florida A&M, and playing football, and because no one wanted me, I wasn't good enough, and so I was always told that that I wasn't good enough to go to Florida State or University of Miami or University of Florida. So I walked on at Florida A&M and became a football player. And that was really my ambition, to be a football player coming out of my neighborhood. But baseball kind of like came in, and like Buck O'Neill was the one that really gave me the confidence that I could be a great base stealer at the major leagues. But once I got to the major leagues, I told my mom, I said, you know what, right now, she was this hard worker. I was the only child. She never got married. She did everything she could to provide for me. I told her, I said, well, right now you don't have to work anymore because I'm going to take care of you for the rest of your life. And then it was like I moved her to San Diego, and she had dementia. And it was right around the time that you told me that my mom had passed away. So it was nothing like motherly love. And I knew that she was instrumental in my life at that time, and I knew how much she meant to me. So you being, who your mom mean to you, because there's nothing like motherly love.
Yep.
She take, I can remember when I was sick, hurting or ailing at the time, she would come in and just rub me down and make sure everything was going to be okay, so so I dedicate and owe everything for my mom, and I know that you feel the same way about your mother.
Thank you.
Awesome stuff, you guys. Can we show that print one more time? Go to popflypopshot.com. This beautiful print retires tomorrow forever. Get Vince's autograph on there. You can get the inscription option as well. Man, Vince, I miss your style of baseball. There's just something sexy about a stolen base. You could turn a walk into a triple. When you're on base, the guy batting gets a distracted pitcher. And while I may not be the biggest fan of the rule changes, I hope it brings that part of the game back into it a little bit. Thank you so much for your time today, Vince.
I just want to say that everybody's right now is geared up for the playoffs in football, and football fans, so they kind of like baseball is sort of like on the back burner right now. So they can just, take a second or two and go out and purchase this comic book right away before the football come on today. It'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good pitch from the man himself. Go get you know how hard it is to get this guy's autograph. You can just get it with a click on your computer or your phone. So go get it. Vince Coleman, thank you so much for your time, friend. Hope to see your brand of baseball start coming back again, because I miss it.
I do, because then that way they let me know that I'm still alive and still doing well, that I did some service for the game, So I really miss the art of base stealing, because it's tough watching baseball for 3 hours and there's no excitement. I'm looking for the excitement for that guy to go out and knowing that once he get on base, that I can pay this ticket to go to this game, that I know once he get on base, he's going to steal, at least tip the, so that's part of the game that's kind of like been suffering for the last couple of years. And I hope it does come back. I'm rooting for it to come back.
Amen to that. That'd be great. Vince Coleman, and thank you so much for your time. And you've taught us we steal off the pitcher, not the catcher. That's what you taught us to say, right?
That's right. Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Vincent Van Gogh Coleman.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. You guys have a blessed and wonderful day.
You too.
You too as well, Vince. Thank you.
Man, that guy's rad.
Totally.
And what I'd even mention is I remember the starting lineups in that era. Like every one of his, I remember it was him stealing. It was a cool nod to him.
I know. I've got one at home. I wish it was nearby, but yeah, it's exactly that. Yeah.
Hey man, I like that he brought up, because Ricky Henderson is a freak. Like he really is one of the greatest players of all time. And in a way, it almost sucks that they were playing during the same era, so he gets compared to Ricky. Like in an alternate universe where Ricky Henderson does not exist, like Vince Coleman is the guy that everyone would be talking about as the greatest modern-ish baseball stealer of all time.
Yeah, and one thing that really occurred to me too when I was researching this piece was it's one thing to be fast and have the wheels, but then to have that mental aspect to know when and how, like Vince mentioned, just like being an astute observer of the game and a student of the game, is just as much a part. Well, I don't know how much, what the ratio is, but like that's such a key ingredient to being as successful as he was at stealing the bases.
Yeah, I love how much he talked about the pitchers, because for
Mm-hmm.
typical fans like me, I think we go straight to the catcher, and catchers
Mm-hmm.
even have like a percentage of stolen base,
Mm-hmm.
thrown outs and stuff. And what he's saying was, by the time the catcher gets the ball, like 90-ish% of the steal has already happened or not happened. That it's
Mm-hmm.
really more about the pitcher and his ability or inability to tip his pitch,
Yeah.
make it obvious if he's throwing a breaking ball, keeping the guy
Mm-hmm.
close or not. And the
Right.
catcher gets a lot of blame for that.
Mm-hmm. It's almost ceremonial that he's throwing it to second. Vince is already there.
Yeah, and I never heard that story. The guy who broke his streak was like a backup guy I've never heard of. How many times does he tell that story to the grandkids or to the bar? Hey, you know what I did? I forgot Vince Coleman.
Oh, that's crazy.
Let's show this print again, because
Sure.
I this one feels like a Flash comic. But did you look at Flash artwork at all, or where did this kind of come from?
I certainly did. He's the kind of the Flash is like the obvious character to go to when thinking about this piece. And you know, as we've talked about before, I have my concept pieces and my hero pieces, and it just felt like this this Vince piece needed to be the hero piece. And I certainly looked at Flash artwork, and even his motion here. Vince doesn't run like this. This is like sort of an exaggerated comic book version of it, but I just wanted everything I wanted it to feel speedy, feel fast, feel Flash without being Flash. We've got this exaggerated move. If he was running like this in real life, it'd be very, very sloppy all over the place move. But in the language, the visual language of comic book, this translates, in speed. It's funny too, if you look at some of the Flash artwork, it's very like, very straight and awkward, and but for whatever reason it just reads differently. So I really leaned into the comic book feel on this one.
So answer this question. My son always asks me, he's almost 8, who would win in a race, the Flash or Sonic the Hedgehog?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
I would probably say because of the movie, they had a radar gun in the movie, and he was like topping out at like 300 and something in that radar gun. So I would say the Flash.
Okay.
The Flash would, but then you've got Superman that's flying around the Earth so fast that he reverses time itself.
Spoiler alert! Yeah. Just in case you haven't seen the 1978 movie yet.
So I don't know where Superman fits in that equation, but it's totally, yeah. I don't know. I would say Team Flash, even though my son would say Team Sonic the Hedgehog for sure.
Well, I'd love to hear your response, and anyone watching, share your thoughts as well. If MLB is sort of unorganically trying to push stolen bases coming back, and the excitement by things like limiting pickoffs, larger bases, like, what is your reaction to that? Are you like, man, now it's sort of like not as real as it's no longer 90 foot? Or is it, hey, if that's what it takes to kind of like push the issue a little bit, that's a good thing?
Yeah, drop your comments in the chat. Would love to hear your thoughts on it. And Bob Feiner, I see you're still here. Please send me a PM, and I'll get you that pop fly for your question. Yeah, what are your thoughts on it? I'll tell you mine, and I want to hear yours. I'm for it. I think, just mostly for the principle that I like that baseball is a very organic game, and I think that the fact that these rules change, I think that means that baseball is alive, and that kind of messes up the purist aspect of it. I get that. I acknowledge that, but I like things that change. I like that Queen is singing with a new singer, because that means that they are an organic living entity that can grow and change and learn and adapt. And I think that's a strong point of baseball, to be able to do that. I love the fact that all the stadiums are all weird shaped. I love that, even though, like Vince mentioned, consistency is key. I like that baseball cannot be consistent at times. It's something I enjoy. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the changes, like not everyone was a fan of instant replay, and like that's been so good for the game to like correct, especially obvious mistakes.
Yeah.
It's not a perfect system, but it's certainly better than it was before. Like
Mhm.
when the whole world in the stadium knows one umpire missed the call, like
Yeah.
you don't really just leave it there.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm so curious about the first time this is going to happen into a game this season where a pitcher throws over the first twice and the guy's safe.
Mhm.
Now that lead's going to expand. And if he throws over that third time and he's safe again, he literally just walks to second. And I don't know if he gets credited with a stolen base there or not. And so any of you fans can educate us.
Yeah.
But that's going to happen this year. And I
That's
know they're
wild.
trying to shorten the time of games, that they don't want games going forever. But that's going to be a really unique live, organic, new experience to watch.
Totally. And it's interesting too. I was watching some clips of Vince, and there's I can't remember the pitcher's name, but I posted it on Twitter. There was 17 pickoff attempts on one batter, and Vince still stole second. Amazing stuff.
Still till second.
do you know if this applies to anyone trying to steal third?
It's every base, yeah.
Gotcha.
So pickoffs to third don't typically happen, but I could see some guys that pushing that issue of, and again, the repercussion of this that an average fan may not pick up on is how that's going to distract the pitcher. Like if you could somehow look at power of hitters when you have fast guys on the base, I would expect those to go up this year because you're going to have pitchers now way more looking at how many pickoffs do I have left, who's on first, and now you get this hitter who's just waiting for that meatball from the distracted guy.
They made some. What was the pitcher's mound changes? I forgot. They changed. Was it last season they changed the pitcher's mound as well? I can't recall. They pushed it back, I think. I can't recall.
The Josh or the Bob Gibson rule, they lowered the mound because I love it, by the way, when one guy causes a rule change in baseball.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and that happens a lot in football too, which I've loved learning about too. It's just that one guy dominates so hard that they have to change the game to make it fair for the other 700 players. Robert Cannongeyser has a comment here. He says the stolen base is a lost art. Evan was spot on in discussing with Vince. Good topic, fellas. Also, the bigger the base is to elevate Also, the bigger base is to elevate injuries on both sides.
To alleviate injuries.
Yeah. Okay.
So like if you look at softball, they got these huge double bags, and some baseball fans think they look goofy, but they really do prevent injury because you had 15 inches of a base that two adults are trying to share. So now you make it a little bit bigger, and Robert is spot on. That's going to have more base for these two guys to share. But it is the repercussion of that is you're shrinking that 90 feet from first to second. Yeah. And so those bang bang plays, you're going to start seeing guys slip in a little bit more now if they're especially if you reduce pickoffs.
I'm excited.
Yeah, Birdie, a guy in the Marlins, he's going to be my guy this year. He stole 40-something bases in very limited time last year. So I'm hoping they give him the green light. And I said it earlier, I freaking love Billy Hamilton. But the dude just can't get on base. He stole 155 bases in Double-A one year.
That's insane.
But his on base that year was over 400. And so, man, if you could somehow just get him to like even like a 250, that guy he could get it done. Anyone else who's watching? Who's the guy this year that you see ripping a bunch of bags? Throw that in the comments because I am hoping for an influx this year, especially all of us fantasy nerds. Yeah. Speaking of, we're going to get that Pop Fly Fantasy League going pretty soon. It was a crazy league last year. It filled up even at I think we're like 18 teams or something nuts. We'll get that info out on the Facebook page. Daniel, any just sort of last words or upcoming Pop Fly news you want to share?
Let's see. We've got some awesome players ahead that are scheduled and some awesome moments. It's been can't believe we're at 113 of these already,
Wow.
and this is our 30. Oh, we have over 30 interviews. So this is wild. But as always, looking to see what where we can take this and what else that we can do with it. So looking at things that are outside of prints and see find the edges of the PopFly universe.
I enjoyed your sticker run. That was
Thank
really
you.
fun. So all of you who were on it to get those either the week of Christmas or you even re-released them as a pack.
Mhm.
That was fun. So yeah, I look forward to what different creative thing and show. What's that mug you got again? Show that.
Oh, this is a prototype. So this is my mug. I'm gonna do one more kind of tweak at it, but so this is a PopFly mug that I am kind of tinkering with here. This is based on, obviously it's a pine tar mug or a pine tar jar approximate here. And this is based on the brand and the brand of pine tar that George Brett used in his infamous pine tar game here. So still working on this here, but PopFly thing to be. I love it when you mentioned the stickers. I love pop culture, and that's truly where the Pop and PopFly Pop Shop comes from, is when baseball and pop culture meet. That's where we've got two things that don't go together, comics and baseball. They're coming together. And so the sticker idea explored, pop culture and baseball, just culture at large. And that's something that's super fascinating to me. And one of my favorite parts of baseball, when it becomes bigger than the game itself.
Well, that mug is a tease because we can't get it. But what's not a tease is the Vince Coleman print, but it will be retired tomorrow. So maybe one last time this morning, can you show that print? Go to popflypopshop.com. You can get your comic book style cover of Vince Coleman. There's an autograph option. There is an autograph inscription, Rookie of the Year option. Grab it today. It will be retired tomorrow. Man, Daniel, thank you for setting this all up. Side note, what's funny? Talk about baseball being alive. Our last interview with Dale Murphy, we talked about how perfect it was that Carlos Correa was a giant to be this villain against the Dodgers. And since then, he's gone to the Mets and now to the Twins. So you never know what's going to happen in the baseball universe.
The offseason is just as weird as the game itself.
Yeah, so we will see. The Twins will look like geniuses or incredibly risky, depending on how Correa's performance goes there. But PopFly Universe, thanks for joining us today. Get the print. Stay in touch on Facebook. We will get the info out for the Fantasy League, where steals will be one of our categories, so pay attention who to draft. Daniel, thank you for your time. Thanks for all you do and for leading us in good conversations.
Thank you, Evan. I appreciate you and everyone else here watching. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
See ya.